In her book, A History of Southport Baptist Church, Susan Carson says, "Only as we remember the past can we appreciate the present and plan for the future." The year was 1871, and the U.S. income tax was repealed. Paris surrendered to the Prussians, and the Great Chicago Fire destroyed over 4 square miles of buildings. The August 6, 1896 edition of the Southport Leader records the death of John L. Westcott and says of him, "He contributed largely to the erection of Smithville Baptist Church and at different times guaranteed the pastor's salary to ensure having one." Mr. Westcott contracted with George L. Baxter, and for the sum of $1,200, work on the first building began on March 14, 1871, and was a white frame building with a front porch supported by columns and faced Nash Street. Only a small portion of the building is shown on the right side of the picture. The first membership consisted of 19 members, many who formerly attended Bethel Baptist Church nearby. The first service held in the new building was Sunday school on September 17, 1871. The first paid pastor was Reverend W. S. McDermott, who was hired in 1872. No salary is recorded, if any. Reverend McDermott also served Bethel Church. The first recorded salary paid to a minister was $150 per year in 1889. A bell, cast in 1872 in Boston, Massachusetts, was presented to the church by G. R. Finch and Son, a deacon at First Baptist Church in Wilmington. Membership in those days was a very serious matter. On one occasion, 2 sisters were excluded from the church for quarreling with each other. Other reasons for exclusion were not attending church services, drunkenness, card playing, and dancing. In keeping with the town's name change, in 1889, Smithville Baptist Church became Southport Baptist Church. Early on, Southport Baptist Church was mission-minded, with 1/10 of its annual budget going to foreign missions. However, in 1901, with an entire budget of $342.01, $3.50 would be sent to the Foreign Mission Board. During World War I, many soldiers from Fort Caswell worshiped at Southport Baptist. Though the exact date of construction is unknown, the first parsonage was occupied by 1906 by the J. Laughlin family. A new parsonage was dedicated in September 1957. Shown are 4 ladies hosting the event. In May and June of 1928, the church building was turned, placing the blank side of the building to the north side of the lot, with the front facing Howe Street. Each member was asked to pay $2 to cover the cost. Funds in the early days were quite tight. Minutes from a church conference on September 30, 1930, show receipts of $555.33, disbursements of $554.73, and a balance on hand of 64 cents. Our oldest living member, Mrs. Myrtle Watson, at 103 years of age, has been a member of Southport Baptist Church for 83 years. She vividly remembers the church in those early years.
That was the only building, was the church, sanctuary. The baptism water was under the platform. You had to raise that up for your baptismal services. We had a choir, but the only way you could get in the choir without coming through the audience, we had one door outside that the choir came in from that outside. And if it was raining, we'd have to hold the umbrella over our heads till we could get in the choir room.
World War II brought many soldiers to the area, and Southport Baptist ministered to them in many ways. Susie Sellers and Wanda Golden used an old typewriter to edit a newspaper called The Short Circuit which was mailed to all servicemen and women from SBC, keeping them abreast of happenings at home. Here's what one of the soldiers would have to read from the June 27, 1945 edition. On Friday night, June 15th, we had a, quote, crazy party. And it really was the craziest party we have ever seen. All of us were given crazy names such as Dopey, Nitwit, and Brainless. To house the bell donated by G.R. Finch, a bell tower was given by Annie Mae Woodside in memory of her father, John W. Woodside. The tower was partially destroyed in August 2020 by Hurricane Isaias. The first GA coronation was held April 24, 1949. The first library opened July 1953 with 190 books. During Hurricane Hazel in October of 1954, the church was used by the Red Cross as an emergency shelter. In November 1958, the church began to explore the possibility of establishing a mission on Oak Island. And in January 1960, a building was erected at Tranquil Harbor. The mission would later become Oak Island Baptist Church, for which a constitution was written and the title transferred in 1967. In August of 1978, an organ was donated by Annie Mae Woodside in memory of Jens Berg and Mary Woodside Berg. This organ is still in use today. In November of 1979, a note-burning ceremony was held to celebrate the retirement of a $100,000 debt incurred in 1969 for the purpose of renovating the then-existing educational building and the construction of what is now the three-story building housing Sunday school classes and daycare. Because of shortage of funds, only the first floor was completed, additional floors being added later. A groundbreaking ceremony was held on June 21, 1987 for a new building under the leadership of Senior Minister Reverend Wayne Trexler and Minister of Music Eddie Hicks. The currently occupied building was dedicated on September 11, 1988. On a site donated by Elizabeth and Dan Harrelson in memory of their son Danny, who died in service to his country, a groundbreaking ceremony was held in 2003 for the construction of a Christian community center, which has since served many church and community functions. In a State of the Church address on January 6, 1991, Reverend Trexler said, quote, "It has been a year of continued unity. Perhaps this is the most significant thing that can be said." Miss Myrtle's message to her fellow church members echoes that sentiment.
Please love each other, forgive each other, and don't have any evil feelings about anybody. Just, I want unity in our church.
In the beginning, we look back. Now is the time for us to look forward. The history of our church is fascinating and is rich in tradition. Our foundation is solid. Our faith and beliefs firmly established. The groundwork has been laid. We are built on the past. As we come and we celebrate our 150th anniversary, we must look to the future. What is in store for Southport Baptist Church in the days ahead? The answer resides within each of us.
The Scriptures equip us to do the work of God. We are the people of God who have been called to do the work of God. And in order for us to know what is our purpose, in order for us to know what God has said in the past, in order for us to affirm the identity of Jesus in a growing way in our own lives, then we must take seriously the Word of God, or we will not be able to adequately do the work of God.
If we first love the Lord our God with all of our heart, soul, and mind, and then we love each other, our purpose will be proper. Our future will be secure.